So the first thing I'd like to do is I'd like to take you from basically step one to the end. Excuse me, I've got a bit of a hoarse throat today. So I'm going to use Webforms through the Oakville Milton board. So let's log into that. Okay, now you can get into Webforms in many different ways. So you can get into it right from your main dashboard here, right? Or you can go in from tools and as well as from your search. So when you're searching homes or condos or businesses or whatever, there is a web form icon on the listing that takes you into web form. And if you do select it from that specific location, when you're looking at a listing, it actually populates a lot of the listing information into the web form kit. So just before we start the actual training in web forms and Authentisign, I'd like to walk you through a bit of the settings that I suggest that you might want to do in order to have a professional presentation when your email goes out, as well as if you're utilizing the kits that were created, you might want to, basically default your font to 11. Excuse me. So in the beginning here, if you can just open up Webforms, if you are following through. If not, I understand this is being recorded, and I believe you'll get a copy, at which point you can review the recording and kind of work with it on your own time. So at the beginning here, I like to click on the setup icon that brings me into these options. And if you click on preference, you can go through these tabs. So your user information, you have the ability to make changes to. It does have some information populated. You can put your website, your email down here, your phone number. And whenever you make changes, you have to click on the update, or else it won't reflect the change that you've entered. Office information comes in from the board. You won't be able to make any changes there. Your email signature, what I did is I went to my Gmail and I just copied what I use on my Gmail. I dropped it in here and you click update. And then this is the part that I really wanted to kind of drive home. In the branding, you can actually select a header, your picture, and a logo. Now, I spoke with Sandra before we started, and I believe there's a shared drive. Actually, let me open the shared drive so I can walk you through that.
Yeah, everybody received that link in their final reminder this morning, and they'll also receive the link again in a follow-up email tomorrow. If you need it earlier than that, then feel free to drop me an email and I'll send it over.
Sounds good, thank you. So then I won't bother going into it, but if you go into the drive, you'll see all of the logos that you can use to set up your branding. Okay. Sorry, I'm in a fish tank here, so a lot of people come by and wave. If I don't wave back, I may get in trouble here. So again, if you can update this information, it does look very professional when you send out an email. Moving past the preferences, if you can click on program settings, one of the things that I'm more concerned about than anything else is your documents, your forms. So your forms here, you have the ability to change your font color. I would leave it a black. I mean, I've seen some of the agents have actually changed it to blue. You can also change your script, based on, I like using Time Romans, and I've selected 11 as the size of the default font in your in the script that goes into the templates. Now, if I've got it set to 11, I've sized the amount of clauses per page, and I'm not sure if you're aware or not. Webform doesn't exactly space pages properly. So if you have too many clauses on one page, it scrolls down beneath the print limit of that page. So you should always look at the right-hand side, and I'll explain that again once we get in the kit, to see whether or not you've got too much information on one page. You'll be able to see it when you're in Webforms, but when you print it, it'll get cut off. So again, if you can set your defaults to 11 and then update, that's great. Also make sure you have autosave checked off. Okay, and that pretty much takes care of that. Now, if you had a database of clients, what you can do is you can click here and actually add all your database. Now it says here, add contacts from Google. So when I first started using Authentisign, what I did was I opened up a separate Google account, and then I uploaded all my agents into that account, because in Google, it will allow you to upload a comma delimited file. And once I did that, I opened the Google account, and then from here, I added the contacts from Google. So it allowed me to basically import everything in a simplistic way. It beats going in and creating it one at a time. So if you wanted to do that again, if you have your contacts in Google, you can easily add all your contacts at any given time using the add contacts from Google here. Okay, now I've got 1 or 2 buttons here that you probably don't have on yours. So I've got the broker tool here, which allows me to transfer kits back to you if you change offices or you join another board and you are moved from one office to another in your existing branch. So I can do that from here. I also have the ability to share kits and templates with you from this portal as well. Now, going back to, I'll start the, actually before I do that, I just want to show you one more thing here. So what we have, these are the templates that are available to you currently. And as I get feedback from agents, they're updated, constantly updated. And I'm not sure if most of you are using the templates. You're probably aware of the update that happened with CREA. And unfortunately, they still haven't been able to restore everything back to normal when there's an update on CREA side or on Webforms side. So what we have here, anything that you should be looking at with respect to the templates that have been created, I'll start with RLP_Oak, because initially I only had access to Oakville, but apparently now it's open to all branches across the GTA. So they all start with RLP_Oak and then number 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. You'll notice here you've got listing templates for sale. Then you've got offer to purchase. These are condos, sorry. So condo listing templates, condo offer to purchase. And then you've got condo listing for lease, condo offer to lease. And then you've got here condo offer to lease with an option to buy. And we've got condo assignment, okay? And then we've got the pothole offer template, right? And then for freehold, same thing. Freehold listing for sale, freehold offer to purchase, freehold listing for lease, freehold offer to lease, and a freehold assignment template. And then we move to the commercial. You've got a commercial listing, offer to purchase commercial, commercial listing for lease, and offer to lease commercial. So I don't know if there's any questions at this point regarding all this information. At this point, I can stop and talk to any questions. If Sandra, if you're still on board here, I'm not seeing the chat myself right now. So if there's no question.
There was a question and I didn't look, but I will shortly. Did you include J&D templates in the shared drive?
Sorry, did I do which? Did
you include J&D templates in the shared drive?
Jay Hannon? I will do that.
Just Royal LePage logos? Yeah. Sorry, did you include just Royal LePage logos or Johnston and Daniel logos in there as well?
I did include Johnson and Daniel as well.
Perfect. Uh,
Yeah, I did.
Mary Cosentino
I
is
put a whole bunch of logos.
okay. Mary
Sorry?
Cosentino is asking, can you add a confirmation of cooperation to an existing template and then save it as a new template, for example? So can you replicate
Absolutely.
and then customize templates?
Absolutely. So basically what you can do also is you can copy my templates and make them your own. And by doing so, you have total control as to what you put into it. Okay, so if you were to go into your transaction templates, and basically you can make a copy of any of these templates and make them your own, right? So you would just come in here, you would click here, copy, and then call it whatever you want. But then if and when any updates do occur, I wouldn't be able to have access to your templates, so I wouldn't be updating your templates.
That's it for questions.
Okay.
You're good to go.
Okay, excellent. So for starters, what I'm going to do is we're going to go into search, and let's just say hypothetically that I've got a client. The client is looking for a home in Oakville. So I'm going to come in here. I'll type H for Halton, check out Oakville. Maybe you were looking for a detached. I don't think I want to be on the buying side of things right now, the way the market is, but here we go. Let's shorten the list. Let's put a price range, 800 to Oakville. I must be kidding myself. 1.3 to 1.8, let's say.
Sam?
Yes.
Michelle
Sorry?
Gilfrey is wondering if the other office forms can be added into web forms.
Actually, I've also included a lot of the PDF documents, and I'll show you that as well right now. Yeah, let me take care of it in the next part here because I don't want to step back now. You'll see TW. These are the TREB listings that have been ported over, and then the ones that don't start with any characters are the Oakville Milton border. So sometimes we have an issue with populating data. So I'm going to stick right now for this sample example. I'm going to stick with a number listing. So this is an Oakville listing, and you'll notice here all the buttons at the top here. And I don't know why they make web forms so small that gets missed most of the time, but this is web forms right here. Excuse me. So this is the house. Let me see who is it listed by. Sutton Quantum. Okay, great. So we won't be double ending this. And so if your client likes this home and you're going to put an offer on it, we're going to click on web forms here. And hopefully it populates the information. System is a little bit slow. You'll notice it brought in the address. Now, this is the Oakville Milton board, right? So you'll notice it says NUCO. So if NUCO doesn't work, you can select the Oakville Milton. And if you're doing, when we had the integration, I guess, if you were doing a Toronto listing, you would select Toronto here and try to populate this if you wanted to keep all your kits on one system. Now, if you're a member of both boards, TREB and the Oakville Milton, you can have kits on both systems. They don't merge, so your web forms on TREB is going to be separate from the web forms on the Oakville Milton board. So right here, you'll notice now what happens here a lot of the times is you get to this point and you click create, and so you're not selecting a template. And at this point, they will actually go and create it. So you don't want to do that. You want to make sure you select the right kit. So this is a purchase, and that is offer to purchase freehold, number 22, right? So we click on that. It brings in NUCO, the MLS number. Now, if this was my listing, I'd want to select both, that I'm representing the seller and the buyer. But since it's not my listing and I'm going to be the cooperating agent, then I select cooperating. It usually defaults to that. And here you have an option to uncheck the wizard. I don't necessarily like using the wizard, but for this training, I will show you what the wizard's all about. So we'll leave it on. Okay, so as you can see, it's populated a lot of the information. You might also still want to verify everything, right? You see, it's got the address, it's got the depth, the width, the assessment, the comments, the legal description. It also gives you the asking price here. So based on everything that's going on in the market right now, we're just going to give them, I guess, 1,700,000. 1, 2, 3. And the deposit, maybe we're giving them, let's say 100,000 to make it appealing. Additional deposit, we don't have to put anything. Present use. Now, in the template, it actually says residential, but they still haven't tweaked all the bugs out of the system yet. So if there's a field here that's left blank, it will overwrite whatever's in the template. So at this point here, you can put residential. Inclusions, what I like to do normally is I like to split my screen, and I usually have a pretty big screen on my desktop. So if I push the window button, sorry, let me do that again. If I push the window key at the bottom left of your keyboard, and then the right arrow, I'll bring this window to one side, and then I can drag this to the other side. So I've got both of them open at the same time, right? Now, if you wanted to, you could, basically cut and paste, right? So here we've got hot water heater under contract inclusions. Again, you don't want to abbreviate whenever you're preparing an offer. So I'm not going to copy everything to simplify. Property includes, cut and paste, right? Let me just open the window again so that you can see. And then you can go in here and you can correct any abbreviations. You don't want to put SS or L, electric light fixtures should be spelled out in case we have an issue and it goes in front of the board. And then we come down here, you've got property exclusions, rental items, put hot water heater here, for instance. Right, and additional schedules. Usually there's a Schedule B. If we've got the window open, we just come back here and see, is there a Schedule B? Additional schedules. Am I looking in the right place? How come I can't see it? Doesn't look like they've attached any schedules here. Not that I can see. So if there was a Schedule B, you can actually download it to your computer, and then I would show you how to upload it to your kit. So in this case, there isn't one. We won't add a Schedule B here. Now you've got 5 steps to the wizard. This is the first one. The next one, basically, you'll have here your contract date, which relates to the listing paperwork, so you don't have to do anything with that, as well as the expiry. Your offer date will be today, so we'll put the 11th. Your irrevocable, assuming that you were presenting this today, could be the same day. For now, we'll just give it the next day, the 12th. Acceptance, you don't have to do anything with. And the closing date would be, let's say we're going to try for, let's say an April 15th closing. Title search, we'll do an April 1st. And possession is the same. Now that's the extent of this panel. We move on to the next panel. Now you'll notice here it brought in the contacts. So we don't have to do anything with the listing contract. We don't have to do anything with the listing brokerage. So I've got here Royal LePage's a cooperating brokerage. I'm the sales agent. At this point right now, I can actually add my contact, my buyer. So if you had the buyer in your contact list, you can click on contact, search for the buyer. And so I've got a dummy one here. I'll check that one off. And it says buyer. Okay, great. I'll save that. Now, the reason why you want to do this here is because if you're using Authentisign, which is managed by the same group that manages Webforms, which is Lone Wolf, they've templated your kit in Authentisign. Once you move your documents to be signed in Authentisign, everything is templated. So when we look at this, now I've got basically the one buyer in this case. If there was two, you can add both. And then we move on. The next step is going to show you all the documents within the kit. Now, there's a lot of documents within the kit. And the reason I put them all in here is because I don't want you to go looking for documents that you're going to need to transact this. Are you going to need all of them? Probably not, definitely not. But if, for the most part, any document that you will need to transact should be in here. If you create your own, if you make a copy of my kits and you decide that you want to delete some of these documents, you can do that and make it a smaller list. Nevertheless, it doesn't hurt to have them in there in case you need to use them later on after you present the offer. So if you wanted to add an additional document, you can do it here. And if you were using the template and you wanted to eliminate a few of these documents, you can just click here and actually delete them at this point right here. And then moving on to the next step, this is where I think somebody asked a question with respect to some of the other documents. Now here, I've included the deal sheet and the deposit receipt. Okay, so every kit has those two files for now. And I'll show you how to add, well, actually I can do this here. If you wanted to add additional documents, for instance, this is a listing, so you may want a collateral agreement. So here's a collateral agreement. So you might want to pull that in. Here are your trust Schedule B for lease and for sale. Showing time is going to go out because we don't use that anymore. Open house instruction, multiple offer procedure. So we have a lot of forms here that you can pull in at this point. Okay, actually, let me pull one in just to show you. Let's say we're going to have a collateral agreement, so let me pull that one in. And you'll notice it gets added to your template. Okay, now moving forward, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to probably reach out again to head office and have some of the forms that are fillable basically created so that they can be included in the kit. And at which point, when you're creating the kit, you can actually populate information into it. Because right now, these PDFs are flat files. You can't really enter information into them. So once we get to this point here, we're pretty much done. So we click done. And it brings us back into the dashboard. I actually don't like this view. I just find it all over the place. So I like to click on forms right here. And it opens up the kit with all the forms that are in it. You'll notice that the first one is the agreement of purchase and sale. The next one is your confirmation and your 801. You also notice here the notice of fulfillment, working with a realtor, the buyer's rep, and then any amendments, receipt of funds, your FENTRAC. Okay, waiver if you needed a mutual release. Conditions, this is 127 if you're going into an offer without any conditions. So normally what we do is we add the conditions, we strike them out and initial them. In some cases, some clients don't want the conditions to appear in the offer whatsoever. So you might want them to fill this out, have this signed. This is the with the purple bricks and the for sale by owners. You might need to use the 201 and 202. And then you have here 303 is a schedule that you can add on if you wanted to. Sorry, this is the buyer's rep schedule. I actually just added that recently. Okay, so if you're okay with that, I'll just move on. We'll click on the agreement of purchase and sale. And you'll notice now sometimes it actually doesn't populate all the information. So in this case, it didn't populate the sellers, right? So if I just split my screen again, I can come in here and basically get the seller's information. Now it looks like it is two names. I'll just highlight them, control copy. I'll come back here, expand this. Okay. And because it's two names, I'm going to drop one name here. Select the and drop the other name. Okay. Now I'm not going to go and fill the whole the APS here, but you'll notice that a lot of the information is already pre-filled for you. You can again go back. You know, if you had a big enough screen, again, I'd have them both side by side, both windows side by side, and I would pick up the the width and depth here. So sorry, this is fronting on whatever, let's call it west side of Valley Heights, and in the in the town of Oakville, right? And we've got our width, the depth and width. Width and depth here. We come here. There's the offering price. There's the deposit, and again here, I believe it was Sutton. If I don't want to, where am I? Took me. Let's see. Gotta move that here. Okay, here we go. I can come back here, click on Sutton, and copy. I don't want the word brokerage, because when you open up a bank account, you don't use the word brokerage. So the check is going to be made to Sutton Group Quantum Realty Inc. Okay, let me move this again to the top. And the one thing, so here, if we had a schedule, you would put a Schedule B here. And this is irrevocable by the buyers. You'll notice here, you've got the information that was copied. Any exclusions would have been here. Here's the hot water tank. HST is included. It defaults to that. In a case where it's not included, you can change it. The title search was put in here. Residential is here. Single family residential you can put in there. And the best part of this is all the information was pulled in. Your clauses are all here. The clauses that I've included here are probably 90% of what you need. Now, every transaction is different. So there's going to be homes that have a swimming pool. I have not added the swimming pool clauses in here. I'll show you how to do that. But if you look at the first one, it's the balance, the electronic signature, which is basically the one that we are now using, for the lawyers as well with respect to COVID, that they can pretty much use Zoom to close the deal. Your home inspection is always 5 days, 5 business days, and the time is 11:59. Your finance condition is the same thing, 5 business days, 11:59. Shadows and fixtures in good working order. Premises left in clean, swept condition. Rental items, this one here, when I ran my own brokerage, I tried to, mitigate any kind of losses, right? So I put in a lot of, security clauses. This one actually was given to me by one of my agents in the office, and I found it to be a good clause to include. So I included that one. The finished basement. Now let's just say hypothetically the home you're putting an offer on doesn't have a finished basement. You highlight this clause, and then just push the backspace, or you can cut it, right? Either way, you get rid of it, and then you could resize your clauses or or respace your clauses, I should say. I'll put it back in there just for the sake of this. The right to visit. I've got, I believe, one further time. You know, you really don't want to be going too many times. You want to go maybe a week before closing to make sure everything's okay. But you have the ability here to make it 2 times or 3 times. It's up to you. Business banking days, illegal use of property. You know, now that you have the ability to grow marijuana in the home, I don't know, but I mean, this still talks to, you know, a commercial grow up or something, or an illegal grow up. Unnatural death. You know, if somebody committed suicide or was murdered in the house, I'd like to know if anybody knows anything about that, because as far as I know, you don't have to disclose. However, if I'm selling, you know, a $2 million home to my client, and you know, there's another home on the street that's maybe, you know, 2 million, you know, 50 or 2,100,000, and they would have probably preferred to buy that one if, you know, that didn't have a unnatural death in it. And once they find out by the neighbors, of course, as soon as you move in, the neighbors come in and say, did you know that the previous owner killed himself or what have you? It becomes a problem. It becomes a problem. And then, you know, depending on the person who bought it, you know, if they decide they want to disclose to the next buyers, it may depreciate their home. At the end of the day, that's something I'd want to know if I was buying a house. So I like to leave it there. Now it's up to you. Again, you can delete any of these clauses if you don't want to. If you don't want to have them in your APS, right? The KITEC, I'm not sure if you're familiar with KITEC, but it was actually, I can show you. I've got one here. So KITEC was plumbing that had aluminum inside it that burst. Big problem in Lakeshore Woods, Burlington, and some other homes that I had basically had renovation during the time period that KITEC came into the market. So I like to ask if basically if there's KITEC in the home, if the owners know. And I also like to ask if there's been a flood. Now, a flood is not, you know, a water leak that was, you know, from the toilet or the tub or whatever. A flood is basically, you know, a KITEC burst or a plumbing burst or a washing machine on the second floor that, you know, broke down and basically flooded the whole home going down to the basement, right? Where you had to have maybe the insurance company rectify it. So I like to ask these questions. Again, it's up to you. You can basically you can remove all of these clauses, put whatever you want in there. Keys and fobs, you know, this is more of a condo clause, but I put it in here as well because there are, you know, sometimes fobs and additional keys to the home. So I leave this here. Manuals and warranties, appraisal, right? You want an appraisal clause in here because you don't want the one visit to be the appraisal visit, right? So I put an appraisal visit here pretty much. COVID-19 clauses basically are clauses that were identified through head office and other means that we've added here, all right? To protect. Again, if you're presenting an offer and you don't feel the need that you want to include some of these, you can delete them. And that pretty much wraps up our, you know, our APS. Now, if you wanted to, now assuming that you wanted to add more clauses here, let's say it had a swimming pool. So we come here, you space between the last clause, and then you click on clauses. Now, you may have personal clauses saved. There might be office clauses that I put in there, but there are system clauses. Now, I know that you pretty much all know there's system clauses here, but when this was converted from the old Webforms to this one, I can't even remember the name of the old Webform system, but when it was converted, the search criteria wasn't the greatest, right? So, you know, you may be looking for a clause, but you don't exactly know how to search it. So you can't find it. So this doesn't help you. Swimming pool was one, right? So initially, if you had to put, you know, swimming, now it comes up, right? So it's swim, sorry. Yeah, so it's swim. If you were to put pool in here, it it normally never came up, but it might come up now. Yeah, so they've changed it now, so it's gotten better. But before, you actually had to put the word swim. Only if you put swimming, it wouldn't even work. But I think they've actually, let's see, okay. So it's working now. They're doing the search on more words. But aside from that, one thing that you can do, I'm just going to open up my, if you go to Aurea, I don't know if you've had the opportunity to log into Aurea, but they have all the clauses in a document. Now, what I can do is if you don't, if you're not going to log on to Aurea, I can drop this as well in the shared drive. So basically, every single system clause is in this document. So residential and commercial. And if you come here, basically, it gives you a ledger of all clauses, right? So you got your access clause, that's the naming convention, right? Titles them here, assignment, right? Shadows, right? Everything, condominium clauses, deposit clauses, commercial clauses, environmental clauses. So just to give you an example, if I wanted something to do with the underground tank, right? And if you want to, you click on it, it'll take you to it. So you can cut and paste this right into your APS, but why would you do that? I'm just going to go back to the APS and I'm going to type in ENV-12, right? So I come back here, click on this, and ENV-12, right? Thought I was going to make a liar out of me, but here it is. Okay, so if you click on it, you can see the contents. If you check it off, you can add it. And it comes in here. Okay, any questions, Sandra, or anything in the chat with respect to what we just talked about?
Yeah, there's been a couple of questions. First of all, yes, if you could please drop that library in the shared drive for people to refer back to, that would be very helpful. Thank you. Gihan is asking if you could just go over again how you split your screen way back when, about 20 minutes ago, because that was pretty cool. And we just would love a quick lesson on that.
Sure. So I'm just going to show you, if you can see the keyboard. Do you see the Windows button? So while holding that window button down, you would push the arrow key. So if you want to split one to the left and one to the right, you basically hold down the window button down and push one screen to the right and one to the left, right? So if you try that and if it works for you, great. If you have any problems with that, you can give me a call and I'll walk you through it.
Nice. And then the last thing that I wanted to mention before you move on is Michelle Gabori just wanted to clarify that she was talking about like the Royal LePage specific forms. Like, do you know if for example, our showing instructions form is loaded up on Webforms, or any of the non-Aurea forms?
Yeah, so any of the forms, Michelle, I can add them, and basically, let me just go to, so it's there, they would be under documents. So if I click on documents, again, these were the two that were loaded, right? So you got your info sheet. Now, the info sheet is actually an editable document, but right here, it's a flat file. So if you were to download that to your computer, you would actually be able to edit these fields. Okay, you just can't edit them in the kit, right? So I was reluctant to put this in because I can show you, if you had this on your computer and you actually filled it out, I would show you how to upload it at the time you're doing your Authentisign kit. You've got your deposit slip as well, in case you have to write a deposit slip. I've put it there. And the collateral commission agreement is for a listing, right? I just put it here as an example to show you how to populate it. So it's not for a purchase. So in this case, I'm just going to delete it. So it's not part of this kit. Let me move this out. Okay, yes. Okay. So, okay, should I move on, or there's something I didn't answer?
We seem to be good, Sam. Feel free to move on.
Okay, super. So again, when you click on the house icon here, it brings you to all your transactions as opposed to your dashboard. The reason why I like to use the home icon is because it lists everything for me. And it makes it a lot easier to work with. So I'm going to go back to this web form kit. So we'll call it a web form kit and an Authentisign kit to differentiate. So the web form kit has your agreement of purchase and sale, your confirmation of cooperation, and your offer summary, the 3 forms you need to send to the listing broker. Just want to point out another thing here. Notice of fulfillment. If you click on that, I've already populated the 2 conditions that you had in your APS. Now, the one thing that you have to keep in mind that if you make a change to these conditions within your APS, you're going to have to make the modification here before you send off the notice of fulfillment to be signed off. Okay, so it has to reflect any changes that was made in the APS. Now, if you had an additional condition, you might want to drop it in here as well. You can also make a copy of this notice of fulfillment and basically waive the conditions separately. You could do them together, they're both 5 days, or you could do them one at a time. Okay. Now, if you want, also, again, you're limited here, right? It's a 1-pager. You're limited to the clauses here. So if you wanted to add another page, you would do that up here. Add another page, say yes, brings in another page at the bottom, in which case you can add additional conditions to be removed. Okay, and if you're not going to put anything here, you can also remove the last page. Sounds good? Okay, one of the things I actually like, now this button here, save and exit, this was actually a new addition. They never had that. And we drove us crazy because you have to back out of the whole kit and come back in. One of the things I like to use to waive conditions, because it gives me leverage when it's a buyer's market, that is, not in this market. I like to use the amendment, right? So in the amendment agreement, after the home inspection has been performed, and I'm given a summary of what, if any, problems with the home. I like to come in here, I like to delete my 2 conditions, and then I like to insert basically anything that I want to be rectified in the home, or if I want a rebate in price or whatever, I put it all here. So when they get the amendment, basically it's a done deal. If they accept it, I've waived my conditions, but I've also used that as a leverage to get anything I want. So instead of using the notice of fulfillment, I use an amendment. Okay, let me go back to the kit. And now we're going to go ahead and move to signing this electronically. I want to select the 3 forms that are going to the client, click on the basket. Now here, if you basically have a subscription with DocuSign, and because Authentisign is free, when you click on the pen here, you should see both options. In my case, I actually like Authentisign, so I'm only going to get the 1. So now it's creating an Authentisign kit. Even though the icon here is still lit, we're actually in here. If that makes sense, okay? So once we basically complete this, you'll see the kit under the pen. Always leave it on simultaneous unless you have a need to have the people sign in order. but I normally leave it on whoever gets it signs first. That way it's not held up. Participants, you'll notice that they get pulled in because we identified them in the beginning. So basically, I'm going to need to sign as the cooperating. I've made myself the buyer here. I'm also going to need to sign, right? And that's it. So I add these two. Now you can also add additional people. You know, if you have an admin, and basically give them a copy. It doesn't, they can review, they can copy, whatever. At this point, I've got the two participants that I need. The documents are loaded and templated. You notice the yellow here shows that they're templated. Agreement of purchase and sale should actually have been templated. I'm not sure why it's not, but we'll find out. Again, there's ongoing bugs with this, and they're still trying to iron them all out. And at this point here, had I had a Schedule B, I would have been able to add it. Add document, upload. And let me see if I can just find the schedule here. There we go. So it brought in the schedule, right? Or actually, where is it? Okay, this is a purchase. We'll just bring our schedule into it. Okay. So you can just highlight the file, you can drag and drop it. Anyway, it comes in here as your Schedule B, and then we click on design. Now, again, this is just basically bugs. This should have been templated. Anyway, I'm going to select the buyer here, click on drag and drop, and then initial. And I'm just going to pull it right in and drop it. Okay. Let's actually put the buyer's name at the bottom. I'm going to put the signature here. You'll notice this always happens because the field is too big. So what we do is just shrink it and put it so it appears above the line. Grab the date, drop it here. That's fine. Again, the buyer here. Now, this is done at the end after all the paperwork is done. So it's another load to your Authentisign kit. What I'm finding a lot of agents are doing right now is they're actually trying to skip this by putting the signature now at this point. Again, here, if I'm signing it, I'm putting my name here. Now, assuming I'm talking to my client or they're with me and they said, listen, you know what? Let's take out the home inspection. So I go to markup. I select this and I cross it out. Okay, and then I go back up, select the buyer, make sure he initials that change. All right, and if this again was, multiple offer scenario where he wanted to pull both of these out, we do the same thing for this. We got that. And we didn't actually fill out these two other documents, but at least here it pulled in the templated it. Okay, everything's templated, which is good. Yeah. Now we get to this, Schedule B, and normally it doesn't have any information here, right? So one way you can put the information in is if you click again on markup, click on the text box, and you just highlight that, click inside, and this would be, B. This would be your Schedule B. And if you wanted to make that bold, change the size, right, you could do that. And again, for the buyer, you could drop the buyer's name in here, seller, the address, and the date, again, doing the same thing, and then initial buyer. Now, the beauty about this here is you can actually grab the signer's name, buyer's name, and just drop it right here. Okay, now we're pretty much done. Next step, send it for e-signature. Send invitation. I'm going to get 2 emails because I've put myself as the buyer and the cooperating agent. But your email is going to appear like this. I'll wait till it comes in. Any other questions while we wait for the email to come in? Sandra?
We're good, Sam.
Okay. Sometimes it takes a little bit longer to come in, depending on how busy the system is. Yeah. So in this case, it might take longer than usual. Okay. Just came in on my phone. There it is. So just going back to the branding that I initially showed you in the beginning. This is what your email would look like. So you got the header, you've got your picture, and the logo is not here. But normally the logo is in here as well. So I'm not sure what happened there. You click on start, takes you through. So the first one is mine. I'm the cooperating agent. I don't have that many to click off on. This part is very important. You got to make sure your clients click on this. If they don't, to show you what it looks like in the background, let me go back here. Our kit, our authentication kit is under the pen. This is the kit that we're working with. The lightning bolt means it's gone out. You'll notice that I started to sign it. The fact that I didn't click on the complete button, it's not finished. So if your client says I've actually signed off and you haven't got the confirmation that it's been signed off, you can go into the system, click on the kit, and see whether or not this last step has been performed, right? So once I come in here and I say complete, and I click on this, Anyway, it should come back and ask me if I want to log in. Usually just say no, thank you. I think the other email has come in. So here's the other email. This is the buyer's email, right? So let's do that one. That's going to have more signing off. Wow, the system is really slow. So what happens here, the first time it comes in, it asks you if you want to accept this signature, right? So you can draw your own, select a different font, or just accept. And once you accept, you start. I can see how this also can get, agents in trouble, because if you haven't explained what they're signing off on, they can always use that against you. They say, well, they just, my agent sent it to me, told me to click, 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 and I didn't know what I was clicking. Unfortunately, with the power of computing and the ease of this kind of a setup. So this is what normally you would see. We say no, thank you, and we're done. We come back here, and if I refresh this, no, it didn't like that. Let me see if it opens it up here. Again, it hasn't updated yet, but when it's all done, you get a certificate logo. Now, for some reason, it's still showing that it's not complete here. At this point, if I wanted to, I can reset it. You see this button here to reset? If I click on that, it basically, I'll take control of it again, and I can resend it out for signature. So if you wanted to stop somebody from signing off because you figured out an error that you forgot to do or whatever, that is an update that you wanted to put in, you can actually reset it and it will reset. But at this point, I think everything is signed off and you should have a certificate here. Well, it's interesting. For some reason, there it is there. It's still processing. Interesting. So basically, to fix that, I just have to come back down here and just sign off again. So again, there's bugs in the system. You just got to make sure that you're on top of it. So this time it actually worked, right? If I come back here, click on the web kits, come back here to the Authentisign kits. Still hasn't loaded, but it will. Everything is complete. You'll notice here, this is the original document. Let me just wait till it signs it off, because okay, I've got the certificate at this point, the approval. If I wanted to, and we ask for the certificate, this is it right here. If you click on this, there's your authentication certificate, right? To prove who signed it, which email address, what time, what day, which IP, and the IP address, right? The terms and conditions, and usually we include that in case we have any issues. Now, the original document is right here. It separates the 3 documents before signing, and then here it gives them to you again individually. So if I click on the agreement of purchase and sale, and not that you have to do this, but just to show you where it is in case you want to look for it. Internet is okay. So right here, you can view it in a PDF, right? You can, if I click view, just opens it up so you can see the document, and you can download it or print it, but you don't have to do that because you will receive an email. So there's the document with all the initial. Now you'll notice here it's yellow. okay, because it hasn't been printed yet. So if you hover over the yellow, it'll give you information. Gives you the person who signed it, and it gives you the IP address, the date, the time, which is the information required to verify who actually signed this, right? Okay. So that pretty much close that. I'll go back to the email just to show you what you would have received. Where are they? Authentisign. Let's bring this down. This is just notification so far. There will be an email with 2 links, a link to your PDF document and a link to your certificate. There it is right here. So this is your signed documents. This is your certificate. And then these are also your documents here. So if you want to download them individually. But if I click here, they are all in one PDF. Okay, 14 pages. Here's your agreement. Schedule A, confirmation of cooperation, and your 801 summary and your Schedule B. All right, now just to show you, sometimes you don't want to send it with the yellow above it. You know, sometimes there's a question about that. So if you save this as a PDF, it'll actually save it with the yellow showing. But if you print it as a PDF, so I clicked on print and it's gonna save it as a PDF, sorry. You'll notice it already changed that, the yellow's gone, right? And that's what you wanna do. You wanna click on the printer and then save it as a PDF and it takes away the yellow. You'll just see the initials or the signature. That's, how do I get out of here? Cancel, okay. But if I downloaded it, just let's go to downloads. Even though it downloaded as a PDF, see how it has the yellow? And so if you sent that, basically that's what they would see. But they wouldn't be able to hover over it and see this information. But they would just see this yellow. And sometimes it brings up a question mark that, you know, you don't need to really deal with. And that pretty much concludes the presentation. So if there's any questions, I can spend the next couple of minutes answering questions or go through some more examples. Sandra?
Thank you, Sam. At this
You're
point,
welcome.
all of the questions that have come in on the chat, I have been able to answer them. Dorothy
Okay.
has just asked here in the chat why the yellow causes an issue. But before you start to answer that, what I'd like to do is, again, invite anybody who would like to unmute their microphone. Please use the raise hand icon that is at the bottom of your Zoom screen. And once you've raised your hand, I'm able to promote your status that allows you the opportunity to unmute or to turn on your video camera. So if you would like to do that and converse with Sam at this point, please feel free to use your raise hand icon, or just let me know in the chat that you'd like the opportunity to unmute so I can change your status within the meeting. Otherwise, feel free to type another question in the chat if you like. And Sam, I'll bump it back to you again. Dorothea has asked, why does the yellow cause an issue? And there's a second question coming in as well, if you can remember. If you could briefly talk about if there's any differences between moving to Webforms from a matrix listing versus moving to Webforms from a Stratus listing.
Okay, so I'll answer the first question. It doesn't really create a problem for most agents. It's just different. Like if an agent receives a couple of offers and, you know, the other offers don't have this yellow, you know, symbol above the signature or initials, it may pose a question like, what is this? How was it signed? How come I'm seeing this and on the other offers I'm not seeing this? So just so that it doesn't become an issue, you can just click on the printer and save it as a PDF, and you will lose the highlighted yellow. So that's that question. With respect to whether you're using Webforms through the Oakville Milton or Stratus, really that there is no difference. As a matter of fact, I only update the transaction kits or the templates on the Oakville Milton board, and it populates throughout. So CREA and Webforms are a separate platform from the actual board's platform. And so the only difference is that your kits are not merged, but the functionality is the same. I don't know if I answered the question.
Yeah, I don't see anything else coming in, Sam. So it looks like you have been excellent at answering everybody's questions and being very clear on what they needed to know. So that's fantastic.
Excellent. Now there's one more document if you want. I can drop it in the shared drive, and it addresses the KaiTech. So it's basically a pamphlet on KaiTech, when it came in, from what year to what year, what to look for, in the class action suit that's involved with this.
Yeah, everything that you have discussed today, if you can drop it into the drive, then please do. Absolutely, Sam. That would be great. And everybody would appreciate it for certain.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. It was a pleasure teaching you this course, and hope to see you on the next one.